Good evening, everyone. For Epic News, this is Marcelo Palermo. Let's see if we can do a sum up or a series of conclusions. We can come to a series of conclusions after the first debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President and candidate of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. I think it should come down to something like this. The debate went somehow was like Trump being Trump, Biden having to talk over the president because of Trump being Trump. Wallace moderator, Fox moderator, trying to mediate when the debate goes out due to what I mentioned before. The president being the president and the vice president talking over him. And then when it came to a point that it was almost a fight between two children, Chris Wallace did what he had to do. He had to impose and raise his voice and reminded them, especially President Trump, that he is the moderator. Now, the interesting thing is to see how there's not even one thing in which they can find common ground. We will see in further debates if they can get to that. But it's really hard to think they will. There are many things considered. One of the things is that no government, in this case, it seems that Trump does not seem or has not intention to recognize nothing from the Obama government. You might think that at this point, this standpoint of his administration, almost for years, at least he will check the possibility to see that, knowing that people can actually check the facts, he will acknowledge the thing or the fact that the Obama administration came out of a very rough crisis, the likes of which this country has never seen since 1929 with the Great Depression. 1.5 million jobs, as Chris Wallace was mentioning moment of the debate, were added to the country or were created in the country, and that is more than what was created in the first 3 years of the Trump administration. Of course, then along came COVID-19 and things went south. So there are things by which you can judge the administration. I mean, there more than 200,000 deaths due to COVID-19 here in the country. Regardless of those deaths being part of people that some of them that they were young and healthy and died because of the actions of that virus, of the novel COVID-19, coronavirus 2019, and others because they already have pre-existing conditions and the virus exacerbated so those conditions, and they eventually, unfortunately, passed away. But the thing is, we have pretty much the worst levels of performance when it comes to COVID-19. Not to blame only the president, to blame everyone and both parties because they do not come to agreement. So, as I was saying, it comes down to this. It was a debate that was very chaotic, messy. I believe that we still need to hear or listen to both candidates, both the president and the former vice president, establish a base for the platforms. We heard some things, but nothing is truly definitive. And many of the things that have been said actually were not related to what they plan to do next, although they try to, especially Joe Biden. Unfortunately, with the president, there are many things sometimes that don't work, such as be patient, be calm, and I think that could actually work against him. Of course, nothing is said yet, although the polls and all the pre-polls are giving Joe Biden a very interesting advantage in many cases of 9 to 10 points in some states or regions of the country. There is more, way more to be done. So I come to this conclusion. We're wondering, I'm wondering then, when you hear or you listen to this, now we have a president who should be seasoned by now because he has been at the highest office in the country for almost 4 years. And then former vice president who has been in public office for like 47 years. You expect them to be more seasoned when it comes to answers. And perhaps one can blame the other, and that game's going to go 4-4. So what I'm saying is, isn't it time to have there perhaps third man, somebody who can actually establish a different position or bring a possible and potential different solution, or a solution that has the elements of pure American grit and muscle when it comes to intellectuality, intellectual muscle, but from a different perspective with a new hope and force, a hope that can actually turn into something feasible, into true, not just stay there and hope, something that could be feasible, and of course, something that could remind us that we might not need to make a country great again, but we can actually exacerbate the greatness of the country and make it better with what we have for those who need us the most. So that's the thing that I was thinking tonight, right after the debate. I wanted to reflect with also the idea of giving you the news, because it is obviously obvious that the perennial ways of establishing government plans don't work for everything. It's set to have don't work for everything. It's set to have unavoidable confrontations among different sectors. It is what it happens. It's America versus America. And it happens in most of the countries in the world. And unfortunately, when it happens, everywhere it happens, it ends in very sheer problems for those countries, which we don't like here, but to happen here, but unfortunately, we are having it already. One thing is true, divisionism is exacerbated. We have more us against them than against us than in a long time we did. We probably see that this brings us back to times such as the 50s of the 60s, when the civil movements rose and fought for equality. We are trying to stop that level, that lack of level and lack of unity that we have here in the country, and I truly believe that it is from both sides, Republicans and Democrats. But how about independents or people who have a different political perspective, people that actually think about another approach and different solutions? Let's say, for example, how about restructuring the badly broken tax system instead of always blaming, for example, the people for abusing the system, or seeing who can pay more or less, and never actually focusing in fixing the problem, because it wasn't fixed. We still have a good chunk of the population living in really harsh and complicated conditions. They're compromised. Even those in middle class, they're in dire straits. So how about trying to bring something to the table that will fix the problems that we have? Think about this again. When Trump talks about paying his taxes in a way that, as he said, helping, to just pay less because he used the system, and that makes him not smart. How about trying other ideas that are even more American, that the many failed policies were constantly presented with? Why not once and for all have the chance to have a third candidate there, for example, with those different ideas, not just somebody throwing mad to the road, somebody who's intellectually capable and has agreed to move forward with some different ideas, who has something to say, a she or a he, it doesn't matter, a woman or a man with new ideas that can actually reverberate within the American people. How about asking for a reform in the tax system? Ideas like the one of Pennsylvania in the late 1970s, mid-1970s, early 1980s, the two-rate tax, the split tax, the single tax, the land tax, that puts more pressure on the land and not on the work and on the progress of those who are working. So it cuts speculation, it cuts pretty much from the root all kinds of tricks, and it enhances the chances of those who want to work to be productive and to make more money and keep more money in their pockets, so they can spend that money, spend it well and wisely, and also by doing so help the country grow. I don't know why we don't have ideas like those. Of course, well, I do know why. They're not very convenient, are they? And that is a problem. And how about we, the people, all of us, trying to start to truly get formed and informed without just listening to the perennial media, leaning to one side or the other, as it always happens, which is what eventually happens. How about starting lifting instead of lowering our expectations? We have 2 more debates. We'll see what happens. We still need to hear a clear platform. We do have them. We know the plans. But we want to listen to the candidates. Hopefully, in the next one, both the president and the former vice president will understand, but especially the president, who is the one who always does incurring interruptions, understands that it will be way more beneficial for him to talk and let talk. If he's sure and confident that his plan is the better plan for the country, he shouldn't have a problem with that. Same thing goes for the vice president, who, if he falls into the same game, he probably will have problems as the president. And again, we are going to find ourselves as Americans in a position in which we have to vote for the lesser of 2 evils, or at least that will be what we will be thinking about when we go to the polls. Get informed, go to the polls, vote, but don't try to make any decisions that you will regret. That is why I would like you to keep on getting informed as well. For Epic News, this has been Marcelo Palermo. You'll have a good day. We'll see you soon. There's lots more to talk about during this electoral period.